Supervisors. Today is September 17th, 2019. Time is 9:01. Madam Clerk, are there any additions to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chairman.
County Council, would you please read items into the record for closed session?
Yes, Chairman, members of the board, you have several items, and later on in your agenda, there's one closed session item that is scheduled for 1:30, and so I'll read them all in for the record now. Under Government Code Section 54957.6, conference with labor negotiators, your agency designated representative is Michelle May, and your employee organization is all units. You have a Government Code Section 54956.9, subsection D2, conference with legal counsel, significant exposure to litigation, one case. And you also have public employee appointment employment of a prospective public health officer under Government Code Section 54957.
All right. Is there any public comment on the closed session items? See none, I'll call close to the public comment portion, and we'll head back to the back room. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a regular meeting of the Madera County Board of Supervisors. Today is Tuesday, September 17th. Time is 10:04. I'll call this meeting to order. County Council, is there anything to report out of closed session?
Chairman, there is no reportable action from this morning's closed session, and just a reminder to the public that the board will be going back into closed session at 1:30 for one more item that is on the agenda.
All right. Then we'll open and close this meeting in honor, and I believe Supervisor Wheeler, you
Yep.
have some?
First of all, a lot of you probably been here when a Madco does our Eastern Madera County garbage hauling. Maury Williams, who's owned that from day one, I've known him since about 1960, and a great guy. He used to help me on my race car. I mean, I can't tell you all the stuff that him and I have done together, and he does a great service up there on the garbage hauling. And him and his partner, Gene Williams, used to have, before he started that, a garage on 222, the old Quail garage, they called it. Great mechanic, too, and he's still races cars up there. I mean, but he's got a driver now. He used to drive, too. Anyway, he passed away Wednesday night last week after our board meeting. And I just can't say how much stuff we've done. And just earlier, about 2 months ago, they had a race down at Tulare, a special race, and he was there. And me and my other good friend I raced with, Rick Friend, and I went over and talked to Maury. I sat with him the whole race, in fact, him and his wife, Katie. And he seemed weak, but he didn't seem like he was weak enough to really start passing. But he passed away. And then this last, I guess it was Wednesday night too, man, this really good friend of ours who actually owns all the land just as you go up 49 out of Oakhurst. He owns both sides of Highway 49, great big ranch, old-time rancher. But he's young. I mean, his dad and his grandpa had it. And Alan Rosasco and his son, 21-year-old son, Samuel, and his girlfriend, 17-year-old Katrina Barnett, had a car wreck, and it flipped upside down into the Bass Lake, and they both drowned. And 17 and 21 years old. And when I talked to Alan the next day when I heard about it, he just lost 2 sons in the last 3 years, maybe 4, with a very rare disease. Both of them are under 20 years old. And he said, it was bad enough. You lose them from disease, you know it's coming, but when something like this happens, he says, I have no answer for it. And I said, I don't either. And what they were doing, they were actually out just together that night celebrating, because the next morning he had just got a job in Minnesota, of all places, at a oil refinery. And he was leaving that next morning to fly, and they called and said that he didn't show up for the airplane, and because they didn't find him until the next morning because the whole car was underwater. And he went looking. He went all over trying to find him, and then the sheriff called him. So anyway, it was a rough week. So.
All right, our invocation will be led by Pastor Dennis Sylvester from the First Assembly of God. And Bobby, if you'd lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's pray. Our Father, we bow before you first, before we do anything else, and recognize who you are. And then today I can't help but sense a little bit of grief from those who have had serious losses in their family. We pray for them. Now, we want to express also our gratitude to be able to live in this country. We're grateful for the state of California, and we are pleased that you put us here in this county. We pray you bless those who lead. Let them lead with wisdom. Let them lead with compassion. And we ask your kind and tender blessing upon each of us today. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 4.
Public comment. The first 15 minutes of each regular session are set aside for members of the public to address the board on any matter under the jurisdiction of the board but not appearing on the agenda. The board will not take action on any items presented under public comment. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes. Anyone addressing the board is asked to print their name clearly on the speaker sheet at the podium and state their name and county of residence for the record.
Good morning. My name is Dennis Cook, and I'm the Director of Behavioral Health Services. September is Suicide Prevention Month, so I'm going to talk a little bit about suicide. It's kind of a tough subject to talk about, but it's quite important. In Madera County, about 10 years ago, we had approximately 29 suicides. We've gradually come down. It's around 18. We average somewhere between 18 and 20 suicides a year, which is double or triple the amount of homicides we have every year in Madera County. Last year, our youngest suicide was under the age of 18. I don't want to give specific ages because in a small community. And the oldest person to commit suicide was above 90. Again, try not to get the exact dates in that. Suicide almost always happens either by hanging or gunshot. We had 1 out of the 18 that was from pills or medication. Sometimes it's a suicide attempt with pills, but it usually doesn't work and that person is contacted. Most people that commit suicide, they don't want to hurt themselves. They just don't want to live any longer. So a lot of times we try to figure out what we can do to help them. You notice you're going to have some things in front of you, and they're in the back of the room here. They talk about a lot of events that we have going on this month, and some of the events we have ongoing all the time. And in fact, last year we gave information and had classes for people out in the community. In fact, we trained about 70 people that were community members on how to help with and recognize suicide. In fact, during this month here, we have events at the high schools at lunchtime. We have an event at one of the middle schools at Madera Community Hospital, and also at Madera Community College, where we have events and try to give out the message of suicide, primarily to help people know what to look for and what to do. What are some of the signs of suicide? In front of you, you have something, a pamphlet that's called Knowing the Signs. And then what to do, more importantly. And then also in front of you are the information about our hotline. We have 5 counties that have come together. We have a regional hotline that then feeds into a national hotline. The reason we want a regional hotline is because we know of some of the resources here in the valley to send people to. To understand, and we get about 50 to 60 calls per month from Madera County that originate here in Madera County, people that are calling the suicide hotline. Sometimes they're contemplating suicide. Sometimes it just happens to be they want other information about mental health. Sometimes it's an active caller who's in the process of suicide, and they talk them down, call law enforcement, go through that process, and have clearly saved people's lives. Knowing some of the signs, usually the first thing someone notices that the person is just acting differently. Maybe they're becoming reckless behavior where before that they weren't. A lot of times it's due to, they notice that there's an increase in alcohol or drug use, changes in their sleep patterns. They start to give away their possessions. They start saying goodbye to people, and that goodbye seems unusual. That person himself can be feeling anger, helpless, and hopeless. I always think of the 2 things of helplessness and hopelessness. Hopelessness means I don't see anything positive in my future. Helplessness means I don't think anyone can help me to get out of that, which is usually not true. People that have thoughts of suicide, that are contemplating suicide, with appropriate intervention, they come through that. It's not uncommon for that at all. So then what do you do? There's 4 different things. Start the conversation, and that is to ask someone. It's best not to ask them, do you want to hurt yourself? Because they don't. They don't want to hurt themselves. They just want to quit living. Are you thinking of suicide? Have you thought of killing yourself? These are appropriate words. We don't have to worry. We used to think, oh, that might plant the seed. It does not plant the seed. It's already there. Then the next one is to listen to what they're saying, and then help them to create a safety plan. And that is, if someone tells you that, you do not let them out of your sight until help is available to them. Sometimes out of the safety plan is making sure they don't have access to a lethal weapon, which for most people, it's a gun. okay? And that's where family members have intervened or law enforcement, is to take those weapons away from them. And then the last is the suicide hotline, and that is, so if you ask somebody, are you thinking of suicide, they say, yes, I've been thinking of that. That you can immediately call the 1-800 hotline. If you don't know it, you can Google it, you can look it up, different things. You'll have a card in front of you that has it, but we don't always have that in front of us. So you can just always Google it. You can call 911 to get it. There's a lot of different ways, and then when you call that suicide hotline, they will help you go through the process. We don't have to learn how to be a therapist with someone, because in reality, most people that commit suicide have never received services for mental health. But they're usually noticed by a family member, a doctor, a physician, a school, someone that's around that person. They have noticed some change in their behavior. Again, September is National Suicide Hotline. Thank you. I don't know if there's any questions. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We just lost one in the mountains this last week, so. Comment. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman Frazier and the rest of the supervisors. My name is Elizabeth Weisner, and I'm with the Community Action Partnership of Madera County, and I'm here this morning to provide you with a brief update on the Senior Nutrition Program. The County of Madera has a contract with the Fresno Madera Area Agency on Aging to provide the Senior Nutrition Program at 5 congregate sites in the County of Madera, and for homebound seniors who are not able to come to the sites. The county has contracted with CAPMC to provide or operate the program on behalf of the county. We were recently notified by the City of Chowchilla that they no longer wish to operate the Senior Nutrition Program in Chowchilla as of the end of November 2019. The state of California requires that agencies submit a transition plan to the state whenever a meal site is being closed. The transition plan must be approved by the state prior to the closing of the site. I've been in contact with the CAO's office to ask for direction for how they would like for CAPMC to proceed, and we've been asked to complete the transition plan, which we will begin working on it. CAPMC is currently exploring other options for opening another site at a nearby location. If any of the Board of Supervisors has recommendations for possible new sites, we'd be open to looking into it. CAPMC will keep the Board of Supervisors informed of how the transition progresses. Be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
So you're looking for a site, you said, to cover that area?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Thank you.
Good morning, Tanya Say, Chief Information Officer. And today I just wanted to quickly let the board know that today is the third Tuesday of September, and that makes it National IT Professionals Day. So I wanted to let you know, so if you see any of my staff members and our IT team, if you could please just let them know to have a happy National IT Day, Professionals Day, and thank them for the work they do, whether it's working on desktops, mobile devices, databases, storage, servers, cybersecurity, networks, whatever it may be. They are behind the scenes working to keep the county afloat on a day-by-day basis.
Happy Professional Day.
All right.
To you.
Thank you.
And your
Great
crew.
job. We really appreciate it. That's
Yeah.
a tough business to be in, because there's always a time it's going to break down, and you are always
You're
right on the
there.
spot, so we appreciate all of you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Darren McCandless with the County Administrative Office. I just want to take this opportunity to introduce Jason Blanks. Jason is the newest member of our admin team. He's joining the county as a risk management analyst / safety officer. To my knowledge, I think he's our first dedicated county safety officer. He comes to us from Fresno County, where he worked for about 15 years, I believe.
Welcome to the best.
And he was their
best
safety
county in the
officer.
state.
So with that, Jason Blanks.
Thank you. I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity. I've been here about a couple weeks now, and it really does feel like a family. And I knew that coming into it, but I really appreciate it and the opportunity. I look forward to working with you and everyone that I've gotten to meet within the department so far. So thank you.
Better than Fresno, huh? No comment? You didn't get fired over there, did you?
Yes.
Okay, I thought maybe you got fired. You want to say nothing bad about it. What was your last name? I'm sorry, Jason.
Blanks, B-L-A-N-K-S.
What was that?
Blanks.
Oh,
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
thank you. Got to put him on the spot. What's your name?
Good morning, Tracy Kennedy, Madera County Treasurer Tax Collector. I live in Madera County. I work in Madera County. I play here, whatever all those things are. One thing I would really like to thank is IT. Really, if it's IT Day once a month or once a year, it's IT Day in our department every day. They are very responsive. They're very polite. Very helpful. They're an amazing department. So I'm very thankful for them. Anyway, tax bills are out. Tax bills are out. So that's what I'm here to tell everybody about. They'll all be mailed on Friday, September 20th. Excuse me, I have a little cold. 57,000 bills. The 9,700 that we printed in-house are multis, 3 or more, that go to the same address. We go ahead and we print those in-house so that we make sure that they go to the right place. So I don't have taxpayers come in and say, how come you sent me 5 different envelopes with 5 different bills and they all come to the same place? So anyway, so we've been doing that for a long time. $192 million is what we will collect if it was all in. We never receive 100%, of course, but we do receive in the 90 percentile. Typically. One thing that will be changed, and you may be getting calls on it, is on the new bills, we had to do a new format because we were getting so many direct charges and general obligation bonds and things on the tax bills. We were running out of room here. So we made a two-column area here for the voter-approved debt and direct charges. So that's one thing that has changed. We have 2 columns. And the other thing is that our actual due dates, according to Revenue and Taxation Code, are February 3rd or November 1st and February 3rd. So that's what they say. What we have always put on our tax bills.
How come you moved them up?
Yeah.
I didn't save that much.
Yeah. Because that's what it says that you can start paying your taxes by. So that's what it says in the Revenue Taxation Code. Now, what 410, 1210, and 410 are is if not paid by those dates, then the delinquent fee is charged. So anyway, we're trying something, if we say 410 and 1210, everybody waits till 410 and 1210 to mail their tax bill. I mean, they literally go stand in line to get a postmark. So we're hoping that maybe this will spur a little bit ahead of time planning, give people an opportunity to say, oh, okay, I can pay early. Maybe they didn't know. Which they probably did know. Also, we did send out 352 letters to taxpayers that pay over $50,000 a year. There is also a code that it's a May. Taxpayers that have over $50,000 aggregate, they can pay by electric wire or e-checks. These inserts right here were stuffed in the tax bills, and they will be billed directly. Friends, the Madera County Animal Shelter, our pre-sort company, will bill them directly for the handling. 10-day notices for unsecured bills, you can read that. Host warning letters, that's for our TOT. Anybody that we have found that is not in compliance with being a TOT operator or business license application, we have sent them warning notices that they need to come in and become compliant. And then, of course, we are invoicing the other TOT operators, and we just mailed 152 business license renewals. And anyway, and I have something, this is for Brett. I have something for Brett.
Your time is up.
So there's no reason to say you didn't get your bill.
Thank you.
Where's mine? Where's mine?
There's too many, I couldn't get them all.
Oh. Hey, on that last one, not 596 10-day notices, is how many Airbnb and B&Bs we have now?
That is unsecured bills, no.
You are
This,
sending this to my mortgage company, aren't you? So that I.
we just wanted you to see it firsthand.
Thank you.
Yeah. 596 10-day notices for unsecured bill, that's for business assessments, boats,
Oh,
airplanes,
that's right.
possessory interest, that's all the unsecured
Okay.
bills. So as far as TOT invoices, 347 third quarter, that is how many operators. Now, keep in mind, there's some that have a management department that runs them. So, I mean, we have probably 4 or 5 management companies that operate a couple hundred. So we send it to the one management company, and then they report for all of the people that they represent.
And Airbnb and B&B both, do they collect those TOTs for us, Joe?
Airbnb, we have a contract with them now. Your administrative assistant asked us about that, and we sent it to you. Yeah, we have a contract with Airbnb to bill and collect our 9% and our 2% for the BID within their, their monthly or their daily rental, and return it to us.
Any other contracts, any other companies?
Nope,
Okay. Can we get those?
we're working on it. In the meantime, don't forget, it's always the property owner that's responsible. They're the ones that have made the arrangement. They're the ones that have a deal with any other online platform. And so they really are the ones that are responsible to make sure that their company is in compliance. And if we find out that they are operating a rental without the proper compliance, then we send out these notices, and we can eventually get code enforcement involved, Matt Freber's office, so. Anything else?
That should do it.
Okay, thanks, and have a great day.
Sherry Baki, Madera Community Hospital Foundation, 1250 East Almond, Madera. Good morning. I'm here to encourage you and all county staff to attend the Hospital Foundation's Mixer at the end of the month. I believe all of you received one of the invitations in the mail, but in case you haven't made your reservation, I wanted to make it convenient for you. Thank you, Mr. Poitras, for already making your reservations. It'll be great to have you there. So last year, the Hospital Foundation Board established this mixer format kind of to resemble an annual ribbon cutting for one of the county's largest private employers. We employ about 800 people, plus we have 200 physicians on our medical staff. The mixer's convenient to attend. It's early on a Friday evening, so those who work in Madera but live in another community can certainly stop by the hospital and network with our physicians and our staff and our leadership. We think it's a great opportunity for the community to come out in support of their hospital and really encourage those who have chosen to serve in this community. So hopefully we can see you on the 27th. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I'll call close to the public comment portion, and we will move on to the consent calendar. Are there any items, any board members wish to pull for further discussion? Supervisor Wheeler.
I have none. I just want to tell you,
Oh.
you did a great job, buddy.
Thank you. I had to beat David. There was only one that got pulled, and so I said,
You beat David,
Yeah.
and I wanted to thank staff, everything that, I had one question on, what was your item? F, and I read the backup, and it covered it.
all right.
So thank you very much.
All right. Is there any public comment on the consent calendar? Mata, you good enough for public comment, or? Okay.
Yeah.
With that, I'll call close to public comment and bring it back to the board for action.
Move to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
You're a very competitive person, Tom. All right, 6A.
6A, Board of Supervisors Department, District Number 1. Presentation of proclamation to United Way of Fresno and Madera Counties in recognition of National Preparedness Month for September 2019. Whereas United Way of Fresno and Madera Counties with community partners and the state of California has created a neighbor-to-neighbor community support to our most vulnerable residents. Whereas through California for All Emergency Preparedness Campaign and 211, the most vulnerable of our neighbors are provided with education on emergency preparedness and resources in that critical time of need. And whereas while education is provided for disaster prevention, 211 will serve as a lifeline to housing and shelter and other essential services to help individuals and families in a time of crisis. And whereas United Way of Fresno and Madera counties not only provides emergency preparedness education and resources, United Way of Fresno and Madera County identify in filling gaps and solutions in local emergency plans community-wide to the most underserved population of our community. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of Supervisors of the County of Madera, State of California, does hereby recognize and honor United Way of Fresno and Madera counties in recognition of National Preparedness Month and for continuing to follow its mission to live united.
And this is only going to cost you $10 for your cell phone ringing. No, I just wanted to thank both of you for being here. There's always been United Way of Fresno and Madera counties, but it never seemed like Madera County had any love. And Lindsay, since you've been in, we see you here all the time, actually caring about our community, and we just really appreciate that. And you guys, between you and Casey, I feel like you guys are really more Madera County, so if we can change it to United Way of Madera, Fresno County, that's fine, but we really appreciate all that you do for our community, and it's our honor to present you with this proclamation today. Yes. Of course.
Open mic at all,
Yeah.
so I can't pass that up. Thank you, Mr. Chair and supervisors behind me. The only reason I'm getting up today is because you all know who I am. I'm Lindsay Callahan. I'm the CEO of United Way, Fresno and Madera counties. I'm a Madera girl. I love this community. We're really excited about National Preparedness Month. We are here today because not only are we offering 211 services for both of our counties that come in critical during a time of disaster, we're also launching a really exciting campaign with the governor's office for Office of Emergency Services called Listos California. And my job this year, over the next 18 months with my team, is to get thousands and thousands of Madera residents ready for disaster, and particularly those who are most vulnerable in the time of disaster. Our data shows that for every dollar that is invested to prepare for a disaster, $7 are saved in a time of disaster. So we really care about this community, and we want the community to be absolutely ready for a disaster. So we're looking forward to partnering with you all and the rest of the community to help get residents ready. So thank you for this honor. Over here.
Lindsay, could you come up for a second? I got a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you work up with our emergency preparedness team that we have in Oakhurst? You meet
That
once
is our
a month?
plan. We want to.
I'll get you, give me your card and I'll get you the contacts of Dan Rule. He's the chair of it.
Okay, I would love to have them involved.
Actually, Bobby went for me last week. Just talked to him.
Okay.
And he's my chief of staff, and he went for me last week, and they usually have about 20, 30 people come from everything. I mean, from fire, CHP, private, everything. So it'd be good if you could come up and speak to them one time.
Fantastic. Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
No, but now, since Tom asked the question, is there anybody in the public that would like to speak on this item? Seeing none, I'll call a close to the public comment portion. Thank you.
Bobby, would you get with her again? Okay. Thank you, guys.
Item 6B.
6B, Board of Supervisors, Department, District Number 5, presentation by Judith Tapia, FOIA Coordinator, Sierra National Forest, United States Department of Agriculture, Forest Service on the Forest Management Plan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Small rack of papers there.
Hi, my name is Judy Tapia. I'm the Planning Officer and Business Manager for the Sierra National Forest, and thank you so much for your invitation to speak. I think it's possible you didn't get through this light reading on our forest plan, so thank you for the opportunity to give you an overview of the our plan. Are there any slides, or was I supposed to bring them? Okay, there we go. Oh, thank you so much. Yay, happy IT day. It's working for me. All right, so I know we want to make this fast. One of the first, if we advance the slide, please. Just want to remind you that we have a little more than a week now to provide comment on our forest plan. And so we're really excited if you have the opportunity to, oh, thank you. Awesome. Cool. Woohoo. Not the most IT savvy person, but it's anyway, so we're really looking for public comment and particularly coordination with our county governments that cover the Sierra National Forest. And so we do have our draft plan that we're going to talk a little bit about the alternatives. It covers alternative B, but if you are happy with it, it's still good to make comments because we find that we're going to have constituents and stakeholders. I know it won't be a surprise to you across a whole spectrum. And so it's always good to know when, a lot of times when people are comfortable with the proposal, they aren't motivated to comment, but it's good to let us know how we're doing either way. So I know staff has all the opportunities to comment there. Just really, with this slide, I just wanted to emphasize that with our environmental analysis, there is one environmental analysis covering both the Sierra and the Sequoia National Forest, but there will be two separate decisions. So our forest supervisor, Dean Gould, will be making an independent decision on this forest plan so that he can truly represent the interests of the communities and the stakeholders that are related to the Sierra National Forest. So I just wanted to emphasize that. You're probably aware from our 2016 draft analysis that came out, we had 3 revision topics that are really crucial for a forest: ecological integrity, fire management, and protection of the communities in the forest, and as well as recreation, sustainable recreation designated areas. And I know that the county is very interested in all of those topics. Recreation brings in a lot of revenue to the county, and you're concerned about protection of the communities and obviously this amazing resource that we have of the forest that brings so many services of water, air quality, as well as the quality of living in the county. So those are all important things that we're addressing in this plan. I'm going to remember to do my job here. Okay, so just real quick, there are 5 alternatives, and there's an additional alternative than the plan or the analysis that we put out in 2016. The alternative A is no action. That's very typical in environmental documents. It just means we're going to keep operating the way we've always been operating. But since our plan was first written in 1992, maybe it's time we look at something different. So we have 4 action alternatives. Alternative B being active restoration. It is our preferred alternative, again, reflected in our draft plan here. And really, we really want to restore the forest back to a fire-adapted ecosystem.
Absolutely. I said absolutely.
So alternative C is more passive restoration. It incorporates the direction we have on Fisher. We have conservation strategies on Fisher, California spotted owl, as well as addressing some issues brought up by the public in our first draft on complex early cereal habitat. And it also focuses on more, this alternative really focuses more on protection of at-risk species habitat through more non-mechanical treatments. And alternative D is our maximum active restoration, and looking at really increasing the pace and scale. There'll be another slide kind of reflecting that pace and scale, and focusing on long-term benefits, getting of the resiliency of treatment to forests, so that when we have disturbance events, as I'm sure you're aware, we've had on the Sierra, many, the forest is resilient to that. And then we've added alternative E, which talks about, it looks at another approach to recreation. Alternative C has a large component of wilderness designation, and alternative E takes a lot of that area as well as our roadless areas and change it to more of a backcountry management area, so that it doesn't have all the restrictions that are included in the Wilderness Act, but it provides that solitude recreation that a lot of our stakeholders were clamoring for.
Would that be included in some of the other options? Some of the items out of that? I mean, because that should be addressed whether you pick any of those other ones.
Well, Supervisor Will, you're so right on about that. Let me go back. What's interesting is when Forest Supervisor Gould makes a decision, as long as he's within the range of all of these alternatives, he can make a preferred alternative that has components of each one. So as we get comments from the public, we can tailor something that is an amalgamation of pieces of all of these. But this should be the balance. So the most active restoration, the most wilderness, all the different strategies. And then he can mix and match them.
Bob, would you make a note of that so when we write the letter? Thank you.
Okay. So just some key changes between the draft and our revised draft here that we're coming to you in 2019 from 2016. Well, vegetation data. Unfortunately, as you're well aware, the Sierra National Forest has had a huge tree mortality event that has, decimated most of our pine belt. Yeah. And so, it was actually occurring at the time of the 2016 revision, but, I'm sure you find this too with CEQA. Yeah. Environmental analysis goes on and things change, and sometimes there's always a decision whether to adapt to it or not. So we chose not to include tree mortality at the time. The stakeholders and commenters at the time felt that was a real mistake on our part, as frankly we do too, in terms of managing the forest. And so we took a whole new set of vegetation data that really reflects the tree mortality event. And the reason the fire zones were changed, it isn't that the approach to fire zones were changed, but they used the new vegetation data to look at risks to communities and change the zoning a little bit in light of the new data. There's wildlife management direction evolving at the same time. As I mentioned, the Fisher and the owl conservation strategies are coming up, and those have been incorporated. And really heard that we missed the boat on recreation management, so there's some new strategies along that. And then also the public was concerned about whether or not they didn't really understand our approach to the aquatic and riparian strategy. And we came up with a new concept about conservation watersheds that I'll touch on really briefly. I don't want to take too much of your time. So please forgive me these slides. I did just pull them from a webinar, so this is reflecting more the Sequoia National Forest, the slide, but it will give you a flavor of the approach. So this is looking at how we're approaching ecological integrity in terms of management areas. And again, we're looking for that resilient forest, wildlife, and resilient communities, and focusing on heterogeneity. We really find that when the forest is the most different, the wildlife is robust and people really enjoy it. So we used to kind of replant everything and it looked quite the same, and we're looking for that heterogeneity and that difference. And we're going to rely heavily on stewardship, contracting, collaborative partnerships. And the purple area you see, again, unfortunately that's the Sequoia National Forest, but that is what is called a wildlife habitat management area. So because in certain zones, particularly where the fisher habitat is, there aren't a lot of green trees. There is an emphasis in these wildlife habitat management areas of preserving the green trees. And anyway, there's some plan components in the plan about how that those areas are a focus of wildlife protection.
Judy,
Yeah.
what's that heterogeneity or something?
Okay, heterogeneity, it's when things are really different. So when we went with the railroad logging, that's mostly in Madera County, things are all the same. The trees are the same age, they're pretty evenly spaced because we planted them. And so we find we need to punch holes in that and make meadow areas. There has to be diversity. We need smaller trees as well as the larger trees, and we need areas where there are meadows. So heterogeneity just means having a forest that has more differences in it, not so, it's the opposite of homogeneous, where it's all the same.
Okay, I don't know either one, so.
Okay,
And
sorry.
then the other thing is that you probably know, we just signed our stewardship contract, the Yosemite Square RC&D, so.
Awesome. Yeah.
Finally.
Woohoo! Go
Took us a
CCI
while, we got her
grant.
done.
Yeah.
So-
We're excited.
So we could do some of this stuff in our poor county, so.
Make some of the difference. So, okay, well, along these lines, sorry, it's going to be harder to see from there. So this is from, in terms of ecological integrity, kind of the differences in the alternatives. So alternative B, again, which is our preferred alternative, is focusing on restoring the vegetation to desired conditions, which are enumerated in the plan, and we're trying to get it close to what the natural range of variation was before we human beings got involved and decided fire was bad and suppressed it and totally
Absolutely.
changed the ecosystem. So we're looking for, what was the forest really like when it was resilient to nature, the way Mother Nature designed it before we got so smart and helped out in ways that weren't helpful. It's really focusing on reducing the risk of fire near communities. We talked about those wildlife habitat management areas, and it does have a 30-inch diameter removal limit with certain exceptions. So that's something that seems like certain aspects of our public are really wanting to see in our plan.
You mean just limited to 30 inches again?
Right, with
That's stupid.
exceptions. There are, because we talked a lot about how in Madera County, a lot of our trees are 30 inches and above, and we still have high basal areas, we need to thin the forest.
Right.
And so there is an exception for ecological reasons that we could take 30
Good,
inches.
it should be. Thank
So
you.
for alternative C and E, I lumped them together under veg management because they're very similar in their approach to veg management. They're really looking at the short-term retention of mature forests. Again, this one is looking at short-term wildlife needs. So there's always this tension between preserving habitat and at-risk species in the short term, and then them having habitat in the long term. We need to. And so there's this tension. So alternative C and E really look at that short-term focus and what is best for species in the short term. And the tools we use, are prescribed fire mostly and less mechanical treatment, because our environmental communities feel that mechanical treatment is the most disturbing to wildlife. So the mechanical thinning is really focused really in the closest areas to communities, and that's about the limitation. I don't say it's a hard limit, but it's really where the focus of mechanical treatment would be. And in this alternative, there's a 24-inch tree removal diameter limit. Did you have a
Like
question?
it used to be.
You made the statement that the public feels that the mechanical treatment is the most disturbing to wildlife. There's really no scientific evidence for that. In fact, just the opposite. So the feeling of the public is dominating what science really tells us, and we're not getting where we need to be because we're always allowing feelings to overcome what is science. I don't know how we ever get to where we need to be if we don't do the right thing for the right reasons.
Well, I will say with these plans, I really acknowledge what you're saying, and we have passionate folks that have strong values, as I know you have the same situation across the spectrum. What's nice about environmental analysis is you have alternatives. So this is reflecting that viewpoint, and everyone feels they do have some science to substantiate their positions, and
Made up
we are trying to do this plan based on the best available scientific information, or, in the federal government, we like to make everything an acronym, so BASI. And so it is something, what's nice is we can reflect this and show the effects, and the effects of this are we treat a lot less.
Learn from it then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we have the basis to explain to communities or stakeholder groups why this might not be the approach, may or may not be the approach taken. I don't know that any, well, you see, we have a preferred alternative, but this is still on the table.
And this
We've
isn't,
kind of known for years, I'm sorry.
this doesn't specifically exclude mechanical thinning. It just,
The Plan B don't.
right, it says that there's other methods, and of the methods, mechanical thinning is the least preferred, but it still doesn't exclude it, right?
I believe that is correct.
Yeah. Also, Judy, on alternative C and E, it's got a focused on use of prescribed fire. Isn't that, we're also doing on Plan B, right?
Well, Plan B has all the tools.
Right.
Right, and again, it doesn't mean that you absolutely can't use something, and I'm not really sure about, tell you the truth, you're putting me a little on the spot, because I can't remember if there's an absolute preclusion in certain areas about mechanical treatment at C. But in alternative B, absolutely, we're going to use prescribed fire as well as mechanical. It's just not, I definitely think in alternative C, mechanical is not the preferred methodology. And exactly how strongly, I'll make a note and I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Through.
And also the SNAP program did all those alternatives also to give you this information, right? I mean, that was a 10-year study.
Right,
So
right. Certainly the science, there's data that was used to develop the alternatives.
Right.
And then just, I feel like I'm taking too much of your time. Alternative D has the maximum restoration. So it's really the most aggressive. It's very similar to B, except it's really looking at finding opportunities to do even more restoration so we can get to long-term resilience faster, maybe taking a little bit more risk with wildlife impacts in the short run for the long term, because we really feel like we're behind the curve. We've already seen big fires, more big fires on the Sierra than we've had in the past 50 years, and certainly the mortality event. We feel a sense of urgency that restoration and resilience needs to be done fairly quickly. So there's this concept of focused landscapes where there would be areas where you could treat more aggressively and that the wildlife values would be protected, but there would be more risk taken so that we could treat and toward resilience more quickly.
And don't feel like you're taking too much of our time. This is so important to us.
We're here to learn.
I mean, the forest, our connection to our forest, I mean, our name is Madera because of wood, because of that connection to our forest. So this is very important to us.
Well said, Chairman.
So take your time, because we want to be a part of the solution to this.
Fantastic.
When you talk about restoration, one of the concerns I have is the catastrophic burns. What I've seen over a period of time, if you took as an example Foresta, there was a catastrophic burn there a number of years ago. I think it was 20-some years ago. And what came
They had one
back
recently.
Yeah, they had one recently too. But what came back was chaparral, and it was so overcrowded and so just non-foresty looking. It was just unhealthy. And when we look at forest restoration in these burn areas, is that part of the consideration here to redevelop rather than allow the chaparral take over? And if that's the case, how are you going to eliminate that chaparral? You use control burns, grazing, all the above, mechanical, et cetera?
Well, I will say, depending on which alternative we go with, we have more ability, more flexibility, tools in our tool shed. So again, probably alternative D has probably the least restrictions, but you're talking about regeneration and reforestation. So all of the alternatives have the opportunity to do reforestation, and thanks again to the grants that we have, particularly the one with Madera County CCI grants. You know, reforestation, growing trees is fabulous with carbon sequestration. And so the California Climate Change Initiative is helping with that. But all of the alternatives in this plan, that's a viable option. So
We're doing some of that up on the French
Supervisor
Fire.
Rodriguez?
Judy,
yes.
I see a lot of trucks, logging trucks coming down with logs. Where are those logs going to?
Well, I'm trying to think about your side of the forest.
They're going to Terabella or Jackson. I know where
Right,
exactly where they're
right.
going.
Depending
Ones
on the
coming down here
timber
going-
sale.
They're going that way, they're going to
Is
Terabella.
that Dinuba, where the sawmill?
No, it's shut down.
They shut down?
Terabella, it's down by Porterville.
Okay.
It's
Now-
only,
You know, we have a lot of trees up that are damaged or have to be removed. Have we ever considered, I'm pretty sure we have, about perhaps persuading some of the people of Oregon and Washington to relocate to the Central Valley to manufacture some of those logs into lumber? Have we tried that approach?
To initiate new suburb
Sawmills. down
sawmills.
here.
Well, I don't know that we've actively pursued that. I will say that depending on these different alternatives, there's going to be more. Ooh, let me just see if it's the next slide. Let me go to the next slide and maybe that this will be address some of your question, because obviously new businesses coming, they need a sustained source of timber before they're going to want to have a business. And I will tell you, there's some of these alternatives don't even support the existence of the Terabella mill. They can't support it. Right. We would need to do 25 million board feet between the Sierra and the Sequoia in order to sustain the Terabella mill, much less having some new business coming in terms of sawmill. And unfortunately, a lot of the lumber that we have in the forest right now is heavily damaged and deteriorating because of the tree mortality, and the trees
I
die.
understand that because pine doesn't last very long, it turns blue. Okay?
You are right
But
on.
There is some logs that are still in pretty good shape. Now, of course, if you were to convince some of these operators to come down to California, you would have to subsidize them to a certain extent. And I think we're going to have to look at that direction to perhaps entice them to come down, because we have a lot of trees up there that need to be brought down, taken down, and that's one means to do it. I mean, you've got to subsidize some of these operators, because it's, like you say, the lumber that's produced, it's damaged. But then pine that's blued, you can use it for furniture purposes,
Right. They're being very innovative and creative about using that
Yeah, of
timber
course.
for some lovely tables and things
Yeah.
I've seen.
You
Well-
can also use it in surface construction, not for structural.
right.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of blue lumber used for siding.
Right, oh,
and
okay.
purposes, and you can paint that, as long as it's not structural,
Right.
it's useful. So, but the problem is, Max is right on. If we could get to that lumber before it blues, it's even more valuable. But even blue lumber is valuable in some respect. It's just getting it, being able to get to it. It takes
What Dave
mechanical.
knows is that, as far as 2x4s, it's all fur. 2x4s,
Right.
for buildings, it's fur.
Doug fur, yeah.
And that won't turn
Yeah,
blue.
Douglas fir, right now.
Well, let's
yeah.
look at the first row is talking about that forest products, because I think this is very salient to the conversation we're having, is under different alternatives, you're going to see more timber coming off of the forest because of the restrictions. Some of them are more restrict, or we're using, if we're not using very much mechanical treatment, you're not going to get a lot of saw logs off of the forest. So you see an alternative, I left off alternative A, but alternative B, which is our preferred alternative, it's going to produce between 20 and 46 million cubic feet or million board feet of timber. And you heard, and this is for the Sierra, and I took out the Sequoia, but it really, at the low end of B, It's questionable about whether we keep Terabella open. It certainly will be kept open on the higher end, but that's quite a range. It's about 100% change between 20 and 46, right? It's a big difference. So there's really some question about whether we can even sustain Terabella with alternative B. And then alternative C, you see it drops even more. It's only 5 to 13 million cubic feet, and that definitely would not sustain Terabella. And you're mentioning many great things of having sawmills. For us, they actually pay us a little bit. We don't make a lot of money anymore, but a little bit
But you do.
It helps us pay the cost of taking the timber out of the forest. It's very expensive, and the haul distances, as you were saying, to Terabella or even up to Jackson are pretty expensive, so there's not a lot left over, but at least we're not paying someone to do it. If we lose a sawmill, then we're going to have to deal with the lumber on our own. It's going to be at our own cost. And I don't know, we're all in this government thing, but federal government is no longer deep pockets, and our fixed costs, our people and our vehicles take up almost all of our appropriated budget. So there's not a lot of money left over for us to do a lot of treatment. So we need, anyway, I shouldn't advocate for
You're right
one.
on, though, but if we had people taking it out and paying us for it, it takes care of the situation.
Right.
And that's what you're saying.
Right.
And we're never going to reach the level that GTR 220 actually states we should reach, and what HR 1904 was all about, the Healthy Forest Act. It will never reach that level without some form of mechanical treatment, and people have to understand that.
Yeah, just,
Yeah,
Yeah,
one more
I just-
question, then we'll let Judith get through her whole.
I know, I just want to talk about that 100 to 230 million board feet. It takes about 100 million board feet max to run a sawmill. North Fork averaged.
Profitable.
Yeah, all their last, 20 years, they averaged 100 to 110 million board feet a year cut at North Fork sawmill, and the highest was 132 million. So when she's talking about that Terabella, if this goes any other place, there's maybe enough to keep them going, but that's really important. But over here in this alternative B, it really does, but that probably would never pass.
And I think Max talking about subsidizing it in some way, it would be much cheaper to subsidize those
Sawmill.
efforts on a sawmill
Yeah.
than to go in and try and do it.
Well, that's one
The
reason
federal
they-
government just.
That's one of the
doing
reasons they
all
come
of
up with this
the
stewardship
work.
program, because that way it's a 10-year contract instead of 2, like most of them are, and nobody's going to invest $20 million for a sawmill without knowing they're going to have
Steady supply.
a steady supply like
Yeah.
we used to. And so this here would help do that along with the stewardship program, so.
All right.
Well, just real quickly, you can look at alternative D and see that it's substantially higher than alternative B. E is very similar to C. I left E in there because if you look at the bottom, I won't read the numbers, but the suitable for timber production also is varying by alternative, depending on how much is attributed to more wilderness or backcountry or other kinds of suitability terms. So that will drive our treatment capability. Just real quick, aquatic ecosystems. So this new draft looks at a thing called conservation watershed. So you see there is one in Madera County. We start the watershed in the wilderness where the watershed quality is really high, and then it matriculates down to a lower elevation band where there may need to be some more watershed treatment. And we thought if we focused on restoring a whole watershed versus just going meadow by meadow or just finding little places to restore, that would be a more comprehensive and holistic approach. So we're also trying to restore the role of fire in riparian areas. I think that's across, these slides mostly reflect the preferred alternative, and I'll try to point out times when it's different. But the aquatics approach is fairly similar across alternatives. Again, this is Sequoia, but it's looking at fire management. They just want to focus that there are 4 fire management zones. They're very similar to what the original draft was. So community wildfire protection, there's a general wildfire protection zone, a fire restoration zone, and a fire management zone. And we'd like everything to be where it's fire management, where fire does its ecological role. But of course, we have other zones to protect communities where that is the overarching value that a lot of some other risks are taken with other values to protect those communities. And then I really want to show you this slide. This again, woohoo! This is the Sierra. So there we have these recreation zones. They're a little different in some of the alternatives, but most of them have this 3-tiered approach where we have destination recreation and we have general recreation, and then we have, I think it's called back roads or challenging back roads, sorry. So what I wanted to show you is the red area. The red is destination recreation, and mostly it is around people want to recreate around water, so it's around water sources in the Sierra, as well as our scenic byway. You can see the scenic byway there in Madera County, and there's a decision to make a lot of the area that is not developed south of Yosemite National Park. There's a real need for Yosemite to have recreation outside of the park because they are overflowing, and so there's a concept that we would do more destination development around Yosemite National Park, partly because we think we have fabulous places to recreate, and it would also, there's this demand surrounding Yosemite. And there's a management corridor for the PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail, but all of the Pacific Crest Trail on the Sierra is in wilderness. And this is, just wanted to show you, for the preferred alternative, there's no additional wilderness. However, we talked about in alternative C, there's a vast amount of wilderness recommended in alternative C.
Yeah,
so
we don't need that.
Well, it is interesting. The Sierra is one of, if not one of the highest percentages of wilderness for national forest in existence. So, but we just had people meeting with us yesterday advocating more wilderness. So it's always good to hear the county's point of view on that. And in terms of wild and scenic river eligibility, right now we have about 48 miles of eligibility. And then any other questions, or our website, or I have to say, I'm so impressed at how aware you all are of the issues on the forest. I know you have so many important things in the city and in the valley to be dealing with, and you seem so aware of what's going on in the forest. So I'm really impressed.
Have you heard anything about the?
Hold on, Supervisor Wheeler.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, and Judy, go back to page 21, it's the sustainable recreation
Sure.
slide.
I see them. I don't.
Won't go back? Oh, yeah, that one.
there we go.
Well, the green is that our boundary line for the east side of the Sierras?
So the darker green is wilderness. And,
Right, but I
yeah.
mean, on the far east side of the Sierras, is that the boundary? It don't go over to June Lake or over to Mammoth? Or
Yeah, on the
Mammoth
other
City?
side, it would be the Inyo.
Yeah, so it don't go over there.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about that when we were, because they were saying that they won't, they're in the San Joaquin air pollution area that we control, and they said that their enforcement ranger that was there with us yesterday at a meeting, we were over there yesterday, they said that that the Forest Service says that San Joaquin Air Pollution Board won't let them burn. Well, we, about 2 years ago, we relaxed all those rules so we could burn more. And so I don't know who I'd get in touch with to tell them that they can do that more, because we've changed those rules. And so I told them I'd look into it for them, so maybe you can pass it along too, find out.
I think the Sierra has been burning more and feels that there has been a relaxation, and the Air Board has been.
Moore, a couple of months ago, I went up to Vallejo, and they want to try to get 200,000 acres a year in the Sierras. And so, and I think that's their goal to do, and then if they could keep ramping it up, like in 10 years, 500,000 acres. Right. Because we got to go back like it used to be.
Yes.
And if we don't, we're going to have this disasters we have all the time now. This is great. Thanks for this great short roundup of it.
I'm delighted you invited me.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, you're familiar with the attempt to develop a study between the, it was the San Joaquin Valley Water Infrastructure Authority in connection with the UC Merced and the watershed information. Are you familiar with that?
We've sent them a letter of support also.
Okay, great.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure.
Oh, you honest?
Yeah.
We're very interested in hearing the results of that study.
Well, that's a
and-
big one, and I think it's, there's been a lot of speculation through the years around that, but there's actual evidence that's come out of another study up north.
Right.
And then Dr. Bales has really put his back into it since, I think, 2011. He came out with his study in 2013. So I think there's going to be some solid evidence that good forest management leads to more watershed.
Absolutely.
And all of, it's just like anything. You crowd a bunch of animals into an area, there's going to be an unhealthy situation. They're going to get sick. They're going to pass more disease. Same goes with trees. You crowd a bunch of trees into an area, the same thing's going to happen. I know that from ranching a little bit. So it's not brain surgery. It's pretty simple stuff. But we need those biological opinions.
Right. And it's sort of interesting. Many of us have grown up thinking the forests are supposed to be that dense
Yeah.
because we didn't know what it was like 100 years ago. And
Right.
So.
I do.
Read John Muir, he'll tell you.
And with the fire, with the trees that are just left after they are fallen or not being taken out, the animals aren't able to escape the fires anymore like they used to be able to because they're just trapped in there.
Stand.
Yeah. Supervisor Wheeler?
I just closed it up and I looked at the front page, the golden California poppies on the front page. Look at the other golden dead trees. That's a good comparison.
Yeah. We finally have the fall foliage all year round.
Right, oh, you're golden.
Right. Is there any public comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll call a close to the public comment.
Thank you.
Thank you
Just
so
really
much,
wanna
Judy.
Thank you
appreciate
so much.
coming.
Yep, that,
Would you
small one?
like,
Could
I
have
have
that?
many hard copies.
I
Would you
just
like
want the small one, the big ones I don't need.
the plan?
Yeah, that one.
Thank you for your enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
This is
Come on,
better to read than that
somebody
is.
for 5 pounds worth of.
Well, when they come out always before, they'd always ship them to different ones that wanted them. And I'd get that package and I'd say, oh my God. Because this is the one I like, the draft, so.
The studies are so big because it helps us thin the trees out up there. So,
yeah.
we can make
Fit
paper.
them some way.
If it was blue paper, that'd be good, right? All right. Thank you, Tom, for bringing that forward. That's very
Thank
important.
Bob for getting hold of her and
Good
getting
stuff.
it going, so.
All right, item 6C.
6C, Board of Supervisors Department, discussion and consideration to approve the restated and amended cooperative agreement with the City of Madera and the City of Chowchilla, Madera County Contract Number 11043-C-2017, to facilitate intergovernmental collaboration to benefit the greater Madera County area and authorize the chairman to sign.
Gary, Melissa? Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Gary Savanda, as a member of the Intergovernmental Coalition Committee for the county. We're here to encourage your participation and renewal of the agreement before you. We think there's been great progress between the two cities and the counties to date, but we're very excited about the possibility of the next meeting that will incorporate not only what we've talked about in the past, but this meeting is focused on a workshop that is trying to entice job creators to the county and the different areas, which uses our availability of opportunity zones and matched with EIFDs, as we have already used in different development processes within the county. We think if all three jurisdictions understand completely and we partner together to maximize the benefits of these programs, we can really show substantial growth in our economic base. So we would encourage on the part of our committee and the good of all three jurisdictions to proceed with the matter before you this morning. And Melissa and I are here to answer any questions you might have. Other members of the committee include Rhonda and Eric and Regina, a cast of thousands, but we're here to help answer any questions you may have.
Supervisor Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Gary, for your, and the committee members for your great leadership in terms of keeping this effort going. I think it's very worthy and very important, and I know Gary has, from years ago, has really been wanting to, encourage that type of discussion and cooperation and so forth. So I know it's a real heartfelt issue for you. Just have a couple of questions. I was looking at the last agreement, or maybe it was agreement signed 2 years ago, and it was talking about the steering committee. It's made up of various electeds. It just had a question, and then I have a comment. The steering committee will meet quarterly and at other times as deems necessary. Have those meetings been taking place?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as the chair, I sit on that steering committee, and we've met 2 or 3 times this year, maybe twice? Twice, yeah.
Good. So anyway, that's good. I just want to make sure that's happening
And that
because.
was, out of that steering committee, that's where that focus to, because before everything was on the table, so, which meant nothing was on the table. And so this time, we really focused through that steering committee to say, okay, we've got the framework for it now. We've had a couple of the meetings. Now let's look at some meat and potatoes and how we can actually work together. So those steering committee meetings have been, I think, very fruitful.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that and to have that single focus. And I guess my comment is, and I've mentioned this to the chairman before, is that, we really need to be disciplined in our approach at this meeting in terms of making it an effective meeting. The last 2 meetings I know have been all over the place, and they've been less than successful. I think that's putting it, mildly. But I do think that the more discipline we have, the more focus in terms of process of the meeting and keeping people on topic, not going down rabbit trails, things of that sort. I think it'll, we'll knock it out of the park. So that's my question, and that's my comment. Thank you.
I'm Melissa Da Silva, Chief of Staff to Chairman Fraser. I just wanted to say that this is going to be more of a workshop as opposed to the last 2 times. It's been kind of a public meeting where we would receive a lot of public comment, which really took a lot of our time. So I think this approach this year should be better, and also want to make sure that you mark October 26th on your calendar for that meeting.
Supervisor Rogers.
Yeah, this hasn't been dissimilar to that acronym, storming, norming, and forming, or forming and norming. And Rob's right, the original intent of the intergovernmental gathering came from our goal setting and our decision that we needed to be collaborative with the cities and bring them together. And unfortunately, the beginnings of these things end up in pontification, and that's where it headed. It was kind of scattered. And the last meeting we had, Brett and I, the chairman pro tem sit on the steering committee, so Brett and I were in that meeting, and the discussion centered around doing something more specific and more productive. And I think this is what came as a result of that. And I think there was really a general lack of knowledge about that specific area, and it was a good focus idea. And so this is the beginning of something new and different that I think will give us that focus that we need on the specific goals. Everybody responds to more money in their coffers and for the community and the more jobs. So this is a good area to start and focus hard.
Mm-hmm. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when I was chairman the first time, and when he was the mayor of Madera before you two were mayor, that's one thing I called him, and I forgot who the mayor was at Chowchilla at the time, excuse me, said we got to get started working together. So this is what it's come up to now, and it's been a slow step, it seems like, but we've come a long ways from when we did that. And Gary, when I remember talking to him that day, I didn't know him very well, you know, it's a couple meetings and stuff. He says, Tom, this is something we've needed for 20 years. That's the words he said that day, so here we are, so thank you, man.
Still working on
Yeah.
All right.
Mr.
One
Chairman?
real quick thing besides that, I think with experience from you being on the Chowchilla City, you both being on the mayor's and city council, and him being on that, I think that brings a lot of this together too, that I don't think we ever had before. I think
Right.
that, because you guys have had the insight of what you guys done.
Experience.
Experience on it, so I think that's
We
helped
know
too.
the issues that face the cities as well as the issues that face the counties, and how, where there's little spots where we can marry those two together. And I think pushing that forward, again, with actionable items that we can come together and find that commonality. And we have a great presenter that understands a lot of those
Right.
tools and programs that are available for cities and counties, and how we can marry the two, and what it could actually look like to transform our areas, and where we have that connections is going to be very important. Because again, I say it all the time, you know, even though they're their own entity and they're their cities, they're still all Madera County residents. They're still, we're all
And they vote for us.
part of it, yeah. Yeah, so it's
Still
important
represented by this board.
to represent
Yeah.
everybody in that. And so I'm just happy that we're going in this direction. Thank you for all of your hard work and hand delivering these to the city councils as well. Is there any public comment regarding this item? Joel, you getting up, or are you dropping your papers? Okay.
Move to approve.
Call it close to the public comment. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second?
We have a second.
I'd like to clarify the recommended action. Instead of being authorize the chairman to sign, you're authorizing your CAO to sign.
No. No.
Oh, wait a minute, hold it.
Yeah, no. Okay, so are you okay with that, maker of the motion? It says you're the chairman, but
That's what we're supposed to do. I mean,
yeah,
you're
if
always.
the CAO signs it. It's how it's, yeah.
County
it's
council,
totally
what does
fine.
that mean?
That's inappropriate if the board wants to change their motion to say CAO because of the error on the description, then it would comply with the Brown Act, and you're free to do that. But the administrators are the ones that signed it in the past, and that's the way it was designed, to authorize the city managers and the CAO to sign. So if you look on
That's
your
fine.
backup, that was the original agreement, so.
Yeah, I
it
have no
wasn't-
My
problem with
power
that.
grab of signing
I'm
is.
okay with the
it
second
just
to
fell.
change
It's just
Fell
unusual.
flat, yeah.
It just seems unusual. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Call for the vote. Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
All right. 6D.
6D, County Administration Department, presentation and discussion of UC Cooperative Extension's 4-H program funding.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jessica Leon, County Administration. And with me, I have Rebecca Ozerin, Acting Director of the UC Cooperative Extension's 4-H program. She will lead the presentation, which will give us an overview of the current 4-H program funding, as well as the future outlook of where the fundings will be. So, Rebecca?
Thank you very much. As Jessica said, my name is Rebecca Ozerian. I'm actually soon to be handing over the role of County Director. We do have a new person named Garmjot Randawa. She will be interacting with you in future events, but today I will be representing UC Cooperative Extension to talk about our 4-H funding situation and how we think we can work with the county to resolve it. I really want to thank Joel and Jessica of the CIO's office. They've been a tremendous help in putting this together today, and really appreciate the support that the board has also shown in interest in supporting 4-H. So for a very brief overview, I'll try to keep it concise so we can delve into any questions you have at the end. Cooperative Extension was established in Madera County in 1914, as it was in many other counties and states across the country. It provides a connection to local community residents to UC resources that they may not otherwise have access to. We have expertise in youth development, such as 4-H, as well as agriculture, environmental horticulture, livestock and natural resource management, and nutrition. We also have the Master Gardener program for gardening education. So 4-H Youth Development in Madera County is the youth development branch of Cooperative Extension. It provides youth with research-backed programmatic opportunities to help these youth members enhance their leadership skills and develop a wide range of life skills as well. So overall, 4-H has huge impacts to the youth who participate. Recent studies showed that youth participating in 4-H programs are 25% more likely to contribute to their families and communities than youth who do not participate. They're 41% less likely to engage in risky and problematic behavior, and they show higher measures of competence, caring, connections, confidence, characters, and contributions to their communities than non-4-H members. Now, you can also see in recent years, 4-H participation in Madera County has steadily increased. Last year, we had a steep increase thanks to a partnership with a group enrollment that was led in collaboration with Wasuma Elementary School, as well as Madera Parks and Recreation and the Madera District Fair. Now, for context, those who participate in group enrollments don't actually contribute any financial means to the program because they're typically covered by the liability of the partner, and so we don't have any out-of-pocket costs that we need to recoup from them. So now I kind of want to take a step back and talk a little bit about the history of funding for 4-H. So I'm just going to make that blank so you can just kind of envision this rather complicated picture. So after several years of a flat state budget and rising costs, as I'm sure you're all familiar with, UCANR, the UC Division of Ag and Natural Resources, which houses 4-H and Cooperative Extension, is responding to budgetary constraints in part through cutting funding to the 4-H program at a state level. Before we were aware of this situation, the county-based 4-H programs throughout the state were funded in a variety of ways, which makes this a bit of a complicated transition. 4-H advisors, such as Russ Hill here, who's supporting us today, have been and will continue to be, excluding any unforeseen changes, are actually covered fully by the UC system and through state and federal dollars that are allotted to the UC through USDA and other federal programs. The program representatives, however, such as Lori Fringer, who's here in the back of the room today, she's the Madera County Program Representative, they are funded differently from the advisors. Many county 4-H reps, such as Lori, had previously been compensated indirectly by using the fees paid by youth and adult participants throughout the state that were pooled at the state level and redistributed to certain counties. Other counties were not covered by this, however. The pool was not large enough to cover every representative throughout the state. So other program representatives have actually historically been funded purely by their counties, while others, such as the Fresno County rep, have been funded through distributions of a statewide 4-H fund. And this was funded a lot through donations as well as some state funding. So this means that the decentralization of 4-H funding, which we will probably see beginning next fiscal year, will have a different impact from county to county. For program reps whose salaries came entirely from those centralized and redistributed program fees, such as Lori, they will convert to only receiving local fees and losing a small percentage, or actually a fairly large percentage of that, to the state to maintain state oversight, such as liability insurance and program oversight at the state level. So the expected change then, when fees are decentralized, again, planned for July 2020, means that Madera County's 4-H program will recoup only a portion of the locally paid fees and will receive no additional state level funding for our program representative. So as you'll see, based on our current enrollment rates, our local program cannot support our local program representative fully. And so it's important also to keep in mind that we are fortunate here that half of Lori's salary is already covered by the county for an administrative purpose in Cooperative Extension. And so we only need to cover half of her salary and benefits for 4-H purposes. So with that, we will hopefully show this. Yes, if we can get the slides back up. Oh, sure.
Happy IT Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just have to know how much we really need them. Thank you.
Look at that, as quickly as it.
All right,
Like a snap of the finger.
This table hopefully will give a brief summary. In general, if we continue under the status quo and losing this state level funding, we will have to increase local fees to offset our deficit unless we have an alternative method of funding. And so this kind of shows the current level of funding. So 2018 to 2019 fiscal year, we were fully state funded in Madera County. This current year, they started to require the local counties to pay a small portion of salary and benefits. And fortunately for us, we were able to increase the local fees by about $7 per youth, and that has covered the current requirement from the state for us to cover locally. So as you can see on the bottom part, that explains the $58 to $65 change between 2018 and 2019. Our projected costs for the program rep, again, this is to cover half of Lori's salary and benefits to continue running the program under the status quo, is a little over $40,000 for 2020 to 2021. The estimated deficit based on current enrollment rates and current fees is approximately $15,000. This will increase over time as cost of living and merit-based increases contribute to increasing the amount that we need to cover for the program to be maintained. And so this means that the deficit, assuming we maintain a flat enrollment fee, will continue to grow over time. Now, if the county cannot contribute any support, you can see on the bottom row what we would have to charge these youth members and their families by default to maintain a full level of funding for the program. And as you can see, in just 1 year, if we have no additional support, we have to charge them $30 more per child. And this becomes untenable, especially for families with multiple children who are participating. And that means that the county as a whole has less access to these programs, which are really crucial for youth development. So we wanted to summarize that and show the estimated trajectory in kind of a worst case scenario. And we're hoping that we don't get to that point. So to make a long story short, without county support, we would need to increase local fees significantly to maintain the status quo. This is unfortunately likely to self-propagate declining enrollment, which would then require even steeper enrollment cost increases to offset the loss of enrollees, resulting in a negative positive feedback loop where limited 4-H accessibility means that we're not actually reaching the populations who could really benefit the most from these services. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Joel Begay, County Administrative Office. So as Lori has mentioned, in the current year, the program is fully funded with that nominal increase in the fees. The staff recommendation today is really directing us to recommend in the future budgets to fund that difference to keep the fees level and not stifle the momentum of enrollment in 4-H. There is no action that needs to be in the 1920. It's really a direction. If your board so directs that, you will have an opportunity to debate the merits of that funding every budget cycle. It's just direction for us, our office, to recommend in the cooperative extension budget that difference to keep 4-H fees level.
Supervisor Poitras.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I have a question and then I have a comment. It's funding from the state of California through the UC extension. And, we know in our state right now, we're receiving record tax revenues and the fund balances are increasing and so on and so forth. And so we haven't been in such a good situation financially in a long, long time. And it sure seems like there's other programs that are not being cut back. Have we contacted our state legislators that represent not only our county, but also other rural counties that benefit from the 4-H program? Has there been an effort, or have they even addressed it in the budget?
So that's a really great question. Because we are state and federal funded, it puts us in a very tenuous position in terms of advocating for ourselves. And so at the state level, we are not allowed to lobby for money. And so all that we can say is this is our current situation, and these are the things that are happening as a result of limited funds. We did have a visit to the statewide UC A&R leadership had a visit in March to talk about basically just telling our story about what we do. So there has not yet been a concerted effort about 4-H in particular.
Okay. See, I think there's a problem right there, and what I would suggest is that you contact the counties and the local reps who are in a position to lobby funds, and the local volunteers and the local advisors and all those people who can get in the face of your local assemblyman, your local state senator, your local congressman for federal funds, so that we can address this thing, because the 4-H kids need to have an advocate in the state capitol. You know, we're in a rural area. 4-H program, I'm speaking to the choir right now, 4-H programs are not just for farmers' kids. There's tons of disadvantaged kids who benefit from 4-H programs. You just have to go to the fair every year and go to the livestock auction and see these kids that, you know, are not from, you know, farming families and things of that sort, that need this program and that benefit greatly, and we cannot be denied, you know, in a state like we have right now. I mean, it seems like the good things are not getting the funding, the things that help kids and benefit them and help them in life. And it seems like, and it seems like stuff is going the other direction. This is something that teaches kids not only responsibility to be entrepreneurs, be business people, financial responsibility. So I would like to see, you know, maybe if you can't, I would like to, you know, even direct staff to see if we can work through our lobbyists in Sacramento to help us get in front, again, make this an issue. We need to make this an issue not only here locally, but also make it an issue with our legislators, our assemblymen, our state senators, our congressmen, and really, you know, be an advocate. Yeah. So not that I'm, you know, passionate about it or not anything, but thank you.
Supervisor Poitras, Russ Hill, 4-H Youth Development Advisor. I cover Merced, Madera, and Mariposa counties, all three counties. I do want to share a little bit that there is some effort happening right now. Matter of fact, when I go back to Merced today, I'm meeting with the Farm Bureau because they can advocate on our behalf as well. There's some other places, but again, these are the rural counties and the Central Valley counties who I think have the strongest programs in the state who are going to sort of do some of this advocation for us. There's one little, I guess it makes this a little bit more complex. So University of California Ag and Natural Resources, A&R, we sit as part of the budget of the University of California Office of the President. So when funds are given out through the state budget, they go to UCOP, and then we are then granted those dollars under that. If anyone recalls, several years back, there was sort of this audit that happened at the state UCOP office for some funds that were mismanaged in a case.
Sitting in the reserve there.
Yeah, so it had that large $300 million plus reserve that was sitting around. We don't have access to that. We're sort of a separate entity. But the flat budgets and the continuing cycle has some to do with that as well. So UCOP was flat funded while the rest of the UC campuses did receive additional dollars to support their programs. So we're underneath this organization, the header of the University of California, where they withheld some of those funds, which means to us it's a flat budget cycle. So yes, advocacy is absolutely positively the way we need to do this. And at the same time, we've also got to resolve the issue of the current funding crises that we're running into.
Supervisor Poitras, with your board's direction, we can coordinate with our partner counties and maybe even possibly bring forth a letter of support or to our legislators in support of the 4-H funding.
On the same page.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, that's what I just wrote down, Joe. And also go to RCRC. And have you ever heard them bring anything up on that? Yeah. Okay, so I think that if we can get our chief of staff to work with you too to work ahead and bring it to us so that we can promote it also. And if we have to go to the UC leadership, that's okay with me too. That don't bother me. I don't think it bothers none of us because it's one of the most important programs, I think, for our kids. I mean, Rob said a little bit, but this keeps kids in school. I mean, it keeps them interested. Pat Schrimming there, who leads the stuff up in the mountains, I called her to come down today. So she asked me to be the judge. I judged a couple things for her, but we judged at the Madera Fair the other day, the poetry, chickens and that kind of stuff. And they do poster now because it's just against the law now to put chickens and stuff at the fairs because of the diseases that's out there. So some of those kids are not farming kids. And every one of them had to speak in front of us about what their poster was about, why they put it up there and what have you. I was so amazed at these kids from this age up to high school age, how good they were. And thank you, Pat, for asking me to be a judge on it again. And I just can't stress how important it is. And that's reading during the budget this year. If you guys remember, Rob, you went and supported me, that we used to put money in this program before the recession hit us. And I think that we got to put it in again. Besides going after this other too, we got to make them get off their ass and get stuff going too.
Right.
But we need to keep supporting this from the board like we used to do for many years until the recession hit, so.
Right.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with both supervisors. We need to, I was thinking about what you said about children from not affluent families, but every year I buy a couple of animals at the fair, and usually I wait for those kids that don't get any bids, and I'll bid on their animals, and they're usually kids that nobody knows. And that's exactly what it reminds me of. I was one of those kids once too. And my parents were in the military. We went down the state. And my first interaction with 4-H was in Riverside, California, believe it or not. I mean, that's in the middle of the city.
Oh.
And I was raised in the country originally, but we'd moved out of the country, and it hung with me. And I really had that longing to interact with the farm animals and do that kind of thing. But anyway, bottom line is I'd like to also recommend, along with the letter, that you contact Rural County Representatives of California, which represents 36 counties, all rural in the state of California, the biggest and strongest lobbying group in the state of California for rural county issues. And we definitely need to notify people like Frank Bigelow and get him in action, and I'm sure he would do that.
Yeah, I still need to be sold a little bit on the program. Just
do you? Just go in the back room and I'll teach it to you.
Just kidding.
Volunteer roles that are open at any time.
Yeah,
We could always use more adult volunteers.
Yeah. So when we had the agenda setting, I had told Joel, like, come with the plan of how we fund it, because I'm guessing that we're going to have quite a bit of support for it, and we can't wait for California to change the way that they're what they're doing to our kids. So we have to step up and as the local agency to be there to support this program. And I know I've got a friend of mine that we still work together on a lot of different things, but went to high school together, and he still to this day talks about 4-H, and he was a kid from that was on a bad track, and still says that 4-H was one of the things that kept him on the straight and narrow. And he first got into it because he always saw his friend going, like, leaving class. And he's like, "Where are you going?" He goes, "Well, I got to go feed my sheep." And he goes, "Well, I want to get out of class." So he joined it just for that reason, and then he fell in love with it and would go and sell his and learned all kinds of different things from it, how to speak to people. He would go to different community members to go learn how to go, pre-sell his animal, and that was something that he says has just had a lasting impact on him and kept him out of trouble.
A lot of kids go to college too. They pay for their college by raising these animals.
And so he's made all three of his kids be a part of 4-H, even when they were living in the middle of Madera and none of their friends were doing it. And he says, "Well, you're going to do it." And they've now they're all. He has one last kid that's a senior, but the other two girls are already in college, and it's one of those things that just helps so many different people. And you look at, we look at programs and how we help people either get out of poverty or help them, but this actually teaches life lessons that anybody needs to be successful. And I'm still mad at my parents for not forcing me to do it. So if there's no further questions here, we'll go out to the public. Is there any public comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll call close to the public comment portion and bring it back for, I'm sure, a split vote.
Yeah. Do we need a motion to say that we want to do this? Would it be better?
I think
it'd be good to be on the record, so I'm going to make a motion to.
as long as it doesn't involve any action on the budget, of course, just
No,
direction to.
I'm going to make a motion that we look into what we can afford to put into this program and to help promote it with our legislators.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
And one other item that we didn't really discuss is we're talking about these kids, it's not all animals. When they have one of the things that she has me judge is the Madera County, overall county food day. And it's cooking. All these different kids do all that cooking. And I don't know, she has 10, 12, 14 judges from all over the county that comes up there. They haven't been arrested the last 4 or 5 years. And I tell you what, there's all areas of these kids come from. I mean, it is so well known, and I guarantee you 99% or 90% probably aren't from farms.
And how many times a year do we have FFA and 4-H coming in that are state champions, national champions out of Madera County? That is just so amazing, right? And
It is.
4-H feeds into that FFA program, and it feeds right into our economy, so.
They also,
appreciate
every
it.
year, those 4-H kids do at the Veterans Memorial Park in Chowchilla, they'll come up and do the flag folding and what those mean.
wow.
And they're patriotic. I mean, and a lot of those things you don't even realize. I learned it from 4-H kids doing that. And that's really an extraordinary thing. It's exceptional citizenship.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your support.
6E.
6E.
Oh, there's public comment?
Pat, did you want to say, you got to come up here. You can't speak from back there. You drove down this far, you can come up here and talk. No, you got to do it on here. You got to say your name, where you're from, and how we know each other.
Pick on me, huh? I just wanted to say that some of those.
Name and address, please.
Pat Strimling from Horsgold.
Perfect.
That's good enough.
Perfect.
Okay. I just wanted to say some of those posters that Tom judged at the fair will be at the Heritage Days display up in Oakhurst on Saturday. My 4-H kids are going to be there with a booth. So if you'd like to come and learn about chickens, Tom learned some things.
Cock-a-doodle-doo all the way home.
Oh, yeah. Now you know how long you have to sit on an egg, too.
Yeah.
Right. I still think it's wrong.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
All right, 6E.
6E, Office of Information Technology, discussion and update on the progress of the Enterprise Geographic Information System.
I have them all the time.
Good morning, once again. Tanya Say, Chief Information Officer. In fiscal year 18-19, your board approved our first GIS manager. We hired Mr. Juan Huitrego, effective July 1st, 2018. In the Madera County Strategic Plan Mission 2023, there's an action item, to implement a countywide GIS program. Under Mr. Huitrego's leadership, the program's really seen some great change, and we've made some great progress. And so today, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Juan to tell us what's been going on in the GIS program. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy IT Professionals Day, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's right.
Thank you, Board and Chairman Frazier, for your time. My name is Juan Huitrago. I am the GIS Manager for Madera County under the Office of Information Technology. This is going to be a brief presentation on Madera County's enterprise GIS services. I hope to provide you with a small glance of where we are going with GIS and where we actually came from. it's amazing how 1 year goes really fast, right? I was hired last July, and since then, the county has accomplished many great things in regards to GIS. In the past year, Madera County has gone through a significant GIS transformation. We're moving forward and we're moving fast. We have moved to a GIS portal from a file storage system of our layers. When I first came on board, the first thing that was done was a full inventory of what we had. This included users, PCs, licenses, contracts, user knowledge, and a complete list of every county layer that we had. We identified that we had multiple contracts. Users were using various versions of ArcMap, but most significant, we had layers in a file storage system. We had copies of the critical layers in multiple locations. In October of 2018, we entered into a contract with the new single ESRI agreement, enterprise agreement. This provided us an opportunity to allocate adequate licenses to all of our users and make sure that they were administered through one single license manager on the server. The new agreement also provided the additional licenses, software, to allow the county to grow. One of the most critical part of the progress was to develop a governance for GIS process. We formulated a strong GIS users group, which meets on a regular monthly basis. I want to take this opportunity to thank the staff from each of the 11 departments who are part of the users group. It was with their support that we have accomplished so much. Early in the process, we met bi-weekly as a group bought into a new county GIS services model and assisted with the inventory process, especially in identifying over 100 critical layers used by staff and the ownership of each one of them. As mentioned, the GIS users group is made up of county staff from 11 departments, various departments, who use GIS. In addition, we now have participation from the city of Madera. We also have participation with an outside agency, nonprofit, and I'm hoping that in the future, the city of Chowchilla will participate as soon as possible with us. Madera County manages many of the layers that both cities utilize, so it's critical for their participation in the process. I invite any local other county organizations that would like to come and join us. Collaboration is essential in maintaining a successful GIS program and services. The county developed a centralized new geodatabase, moved over those 100 critical layers to the new geodatabase, deployed multiple servers for redundancy and growth. These included a new virtual SQL server and backup, an application server, and a portal server. Now all of the layers were in one single database. Staff are provided access based on their needs. Users who just need access to the layers were provided the view-only access. This model provides staff access to all of the layers and effectively perform data analysis with any layer available to them. Advanced users who maintain the critical layers were given full access rights to the layers. Most importantly, everyone who accesses our geodatabase can feel confident that they are obtaining the latest and up-to-date changes to the layer. No more copies somewhere else, somewhere in some file storage location. As part of the inventory, it was identified that there were multiple contracts due to lack of licenses and no single management of those licenses. We had staff using various ArcMap versions from 10.0 to 10.6 standalone licenses. As soon as we signed the agreement and deployed the new license manager in December of 2018, we moved everyone to the latest version of ArcMap 10.6. Everyone is now using the same platform, and we have sufficient licenses for all staff who use GIS. With the enterprise agreement, we can now grow as much as we want and at the pace that our users are comfortable with. As part of the implementation of the new geodatabase, we are actively conducting layer audits for layers accuracy. We started with layers we own and moved from there. For example, our county outline, Board of Supervisors, following legal descriptions, and currently working with election layers to make sure all are managed and are accurate. The IT department has taken over a few critical layers and has begun maintaining them. As an example, We now have a master address point file that we maintain on a daily basis. This and will continue to maintain for a long time. This will assist in the future state requirements for new next generation 911 addressing for dispatch centers. The inventory helped identify training needs. We learned that staff using GIS had very little to no training, some teaching themselves over the basics over the years. During the months of April and May of this year, we provided 3 intro classes to GIS for staff. There were about 30 staff who participated in the training. This was just a small 4-hour class covering the basics of GIS. Additional more hands-on training has been identified, and we plan to bring on a trainer to provide a 2 full-day on hands-on training for the staff that do maintenance and critical layer support for the county. In January of 2019, we deployed our new GIS portal. We deployed 4 simple applications. Supervisor lookup, where residents can look up their board of supervisors online. Election information, residents can look up the elections districts they are in. FEMA, staff use this to identify the FEMA zones when reviewing and evaluating well information or inspections. And land use application. Residents can look up zoning and general plan information through this application. Each one of these applications have saved hours of just simple calls coming into the offices, where now the residents of Madera County can just go online and actually obtain that information by simply going to our web portal. These applications assist reducing staff time, answering some of those questions. In addition, it provides easy access of the information, such as FEMA information. Staff can now use the application to identify FEMA zones in the field rather than just coming back to the office and answering those questions. They can actually do it in the field. What are we creating? Well, there's a lot of more enthusiasm in GIS recently, and so these are the things that we're working on. We are currently working on the following online applications: assessment, tax, and land records application. We're currently working with the assessor's office to review and potentially remap all of our county parcels. The final product to be a new way of parcel maintenance through the implementation of Parcel Fabric, utilizing the latest technology to make assessment, tax, and land records decisions more effective. And I believe the assessor's office is going to also have another agenda item coming down that will speak a little bit more into that. Road closure applications. We're looking at new interactive road closure applications, provide residents live, up-to-date road closures in the county. DSS health initiatives. We're working with the Department of Social Services on developing studies in targeted areas in the county, and more specifically in the city of Madera, to provide more effective services to those areas. Homeless tracking. Working with DSS and the nonprofit organizations locally to develop an online web application to track homeless populations in the county. This will assist in finding trends, possible services in the future. Environmental health inspections. We're currently working with our environmental health divisions on an application to provide online health inspections and making these available online. In the future, we plan to start looking at new ways of making effective decisions through mobile solutions. We can integrate some of our online solutions through our portal and mobile devices, allowing users to update information on the spot, and staff back in the office having up-to-date updates readily available. Mobile solutions can assist in land assessment, code enforcement, homeless tracking, environmental health inspections. Finally, where are we going? ESRI has different products that come out for every 2-3 years, but the latest is called ArcGIS Pro. That's where we're going. And finally, we want to venture into this new platform which will allow users better flexibility in utilizing GIS. ArcGIS Pro allows staff not only to perform the basic functions of GIS, like updating, creating, and printing nice maps, but also provides a way to publish and share maps to the portal with other staff and the public, utilizing more analytical processes to make effective decisions. ArcGIS Pro is the direction ESRI is moving to, and so will Madera County. The goal is to transition staff from ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro in the upcoming years. We're identifying appropriate training for staff. We're looking at moving the parcel fabric, which is ArcGIS Pro, and we'll utilize this platform for the products the assessor's office staff will be utilizing. They will utilize to maintain all parcel edits and features. Again, I wanted to go through fairly quickly, so maybe allow you guys to have any questions, but I want to most importantly thank you guys for bringing me on board in Madera. It's been fun. I love GIS, and I love what we've been able to accomplish. And so I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Well, it's a much brighter outlook than it was a year ago in terms of our GIS, and so I just want to thank you for all of your hard work on that.
Well, thank you.
Any other, Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, I'll make it quick. Since I've been elected, I can't tell you how many different surveyors and stuff have come to me and said how bad our stuff was. And so I haven't had a complaint like that since you've been here. I don't know if you've changed some of it or what, but they haven't been coming to me and asking me about that now. So thank you, Tanya, for working on this to get where we are now. So,
well, thank you.
I said Tanya, so
Oh.
you too. No, you too. She's part of this to bring this together for us when she's taking this over. So,
Any other
Bruce and
questions,
everybody else, so.
comments? See none, any public comment regarding this item? See none, I'll call close to the public comment, and thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Board.
Very much.
Teased it up perfectly for 6F. I think we can get through these two fairly quickly.
6F, Assessor's Office, discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution authorizing application for and participation in the state supplementation for county assessors program.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Gary Savanda, Madera County Assessor. That was perfect. He teed me up a home run ball that I think I should be able to step in and get this done. My item before you is to ask for your permission to participate in the second round of funding from the Department of Finance through the Assessor's Office. The grant that we participated in the first time was a 1-to-1 dollar-for-dollar match. We were awarded $450,000 at that time, had to be matched by $450,000 of county money. And with that, we cleaned up our backlog, made sure that we digitized all of our storage information and made capital expenditures that brought our assessor's office current with our work and gave us the ability to maintain that currency. The second round of funding that is available through the DOF is for $420-some thousand the first year and a little over $400,000 the second year. The good news is the participation of the county is only $1 for their two. So we're leveraging the monies we're spending, and the monies I intend to spend are for cleaning up and purifying our GIS layer for not only our use, but other departmental use throughout the county. And the taxpayers that we serve, they'll be able to access a clean, up-to-date, and modern version of 60,000 plus parcels. And Tom, you'll be able to tell them, go in and look now, because the information will be clean, accurate, and up-to-date. To do that, it costs between $750,000 and $1 million. What we're bringing before you this morning is a request for a little over $400,000 in your funding to create $1.2 million to complete not only this work, but some of the other things, the training that Juan was alluding to. Our layer is kind of fundamental for the GIS system that we all use. So our update can be accomplished on 30 cents on the dollar. And that will lay the foundation for accuracy and other layers that can then be added by different departments to enhance the ability for all of us to use this kind of information for better decision making. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. We have been awarded. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of your decision to match the 1-for-2 funds. We've already been awarded those those grant dollars by the Department of Finance.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yeah, Gary, you've done an outstanding job through the years, and this is just more evidence of that. This brings us a real opportunity to leverage dollars that we badly need to keep us current and function in an ever decreasing. We have less people doing more, and that's an important component of that. So I totally support this. We'd be foolish not to accept it.
Yeah, we have to do this for $1.2 million anyway, might as well pay only $400,000 for it, so.
Exactly.
So,
All right, Supervisor Wheeler?
yeah, just, and Joel, have you got the funds that was budgeted and what have you?
Afternoon, Board. Joel Begay, County Administrative Office. So there is no budget adjustment included here. It's a resolution to authorize accepting the, applying, I guess, and accepting the funds. I think the budgetary action would come together at the same time as the GIS costs will come together. We will work with Gary's office and IT to have a recommendation. We do have contingency funds in the current year. We do have some unanticipated revenues potentially realized by the time the contract comes up. So we will follow up with a budgetary action to coincide with the contract action that's needed for the GIS upgrade.
And it will be split in 2 different budget cycles?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, do we pay it monthly or bill them? How do
No,
we-
we'll actually pay it in 2 different budget cycles.
Okay, 200 is
Match 200 this year, 200 next year, kind of deal, so, yeah.
Okay.
All right, if there's no further questions, any public comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll call close to the public comment, bring it back to the board for action.
Make a motion for approval?
Second?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes,
Vote passes 5-0.
thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Excellent.
All right, 6G, and then we'll break for lunch.
6G, County Administration Department, Agreement with Grassroots Lab. Discussion and consideration of entering into an agreement with Grassroots Lab in the amount of $5,000 per month for providing polling, research, and survey services to evaluate the feasibility of increasing the transient occupancy tax rate effective October 1st, 2019, and authorize the chairman to sign. 2, discussion and consideration of approval of transfer of appropriations number 19-025 in the amount of $75,000, transfer from contingencies to special payments. 4 votes required.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Joel Begay, County Administrative Office. This item is a follow-up to your board's direction on May 21st to seek a consultant to evaluate the feasibility and assist the county as it goes through pursuing a potentially increasing its TOT to match Mariposa County, which successfully passed a ballot measure to increase their TOT by 2 percentage points from 9% to from 11% to total 11% to 13%. We are currently at a total of 11%, which includes 9% TOT and 2% BID. Mariposa County's mix is a little different. I think they're 10 and 1, but overall, I think what was discussed at that time is to match that Mariposa County. Staff is we're recommending that we have this contract with Grassroots Lab. They have extensive experience assisting local governments in ballot measures, in surveys and polling. And most recently, most importantly, they were the consultants that Mariposa County used for their successful ballot measure to increase their TOT. It's important to note that Mariposa had a failed attempt at TOT.
I was just gonna sing that up.
And then Grassroots Lab really helped them frame the issues to make sure that the accurate information and, to frame the TOT increase, right, and how that impacts and who's really paying it and that kind of stuff. So that's the value that Grassroots Labs can bring. The contract is $5,000 per month as retainer. The recommended budget adjustment is for $75,000, which includes $45,000 through June 30th. But it also includes $30,000, which is the estimated cost for polling, which isn't going into Grassroots Lab. It would be an independent firm that Grassroots Labs work with, and we would have to establish our own agreement with that. But they will help the county facilitate that process, frame the issues, establish the polling analyze it and basically break it down by district, give us analytics on, and also look at what's the needs and what are the differences between districts, what's the, appetite for that, and things of that nature. So this contract is to authorize engagement with Grassroots Round effective October 1st.
Supervisor Wheeler?
Yeah, if you guys remember during our budget hearings, I brought this up about doing this to get that fuel reduction district, and mainly for eastern Madera County, and the other was for a hospital supplement district, which I started thinking about that about 5, 6, 7 years ago, and well, it was before when John Anderson was still here, when we had those, I don't know what they called them, C.C. Massetti was in charge of them, getting them up. So we met once a month down here at Fernessi's. We go over what the county and cities and hospital and the police and fire and everybody needed. And I brought it up then because our team and I talked about it because we couldn't keep no ER open up there. And Mariposa County also has that to support their hospital, because everybody says, well, how come they can, Mariposa, smaller county, how come they can have it? I said, well, they're supplemented. Oh,
Yeah, a Memorial District or
Right.
a Veterans District, something like
Right,
that.
and they pay actually property tax. Well, after talking to my team for a couple of years on this, and our fuel reduction, our insurance rates up there have just skyrocketed, and so many of our places like me too have lost our insurance. I have no insurance. I mean, it's good till January, but they've already notified me a month and a half ago that they already canceled me. And that's London, Lloyd's of London. Before I had Hartford a year and a half ago before they canceled me. But the trouble is now, the insurance company not only using the ISO to make their decisions of what they're basing their rates on, they're also doing satellite pictures and seeing how much brush is around. And so with all these dead trees and all the brush and stuff we've had, there's been no money from anybody, from the feds, from NRCS, FSA, or nothing to help private landowners unless they're ag. And so I've been bringing it up now for probably 6 months to my town halls, and then we had a workshop the other day. The county, we got $3.5 million to do our fuel breaks around all our communities up there. But that's for fuel breaks only, not reducing the fuel, around the homes and stuff. And so what my idea was, when I brought it up to this for the, when we talked about it during our budget, was to, because I knew that Mariposa had just increased their 2%, but they're using it for other items. I would like to designate this money, mainly the 2% for a fuel reduction district, to help private landowners be able to clean some of this brush up there.
And that'll come through, because we're not voting on that today. We would have to, that would be like
We're
whatever
voting on
grassroots. Yeah,
to hire a company to look into
yeah.
what's the feasibility of it.
Yeah, so we'll look into that on.
As we go, right?
Yeah.
Right,
But
and the contract is set up in 2 phases. Phase 1 is really what Supervisor Wheeler is saying, is framing, what does the county recommend to do? And then the second phase would be the ballot measure part. So the contract is broken down into phases, and if it doesn't materialize into phase 2, we don't have to pay them for phase 2. So that's I think the contract is structured that way.
Okay.
And the main thing is that, we tried to pass Measure L. We all fought hard on that, most of us. And it failed because it was the 1 penny sales tax. This is the TOT tax, which 99% of it comes from all of our visitors that come in our community. And that 2% creates about $800,000 a year, which go a long ways. And if you have matching funds, you can also get monies to help do this fuel reduction. And I've talked about it to other counties and stuff, and they all like it. I mean, CAL FIRE likes it. Everybody likes this idea of somehow how we can reduce our fuel in our foothills. So.
Yeah, and what we were able to accomplish with putting in 500,000, 800,000 on a regular basis could really help with that. So,
yeah.
All right, is there any other questions? If not, any public comment regarding this item?
Bruce Gray.
My name is Bruce Gray. I live in Madera County. And the question I have is what Tom just brought up. is the fuel reduction district. Now, everything in here is talking about upping the transient occupancy tax. Now, are we talking about upping the business improvement district tax to 4%, or just taking that away from the business districts and putting it in your generating a fuel reduction district?
You can't touch the BID. It's set in stone.
Let's wait until public comment is done, and then we'll answer
I'm
those
sorry.
questions.
Okay.
Sorry, that's just the way I structure my
You're right.
public
I'm sorry.
comment. Yeah.
Yeah, like I say, the transient oxygen tax is one thing, but the business improvement district tax is something else. And you're going to take that away from the businesses and create a fuel reduction district? Doesn't make sense to me. If you're going to take that 2% away from the districts in which Oakhurst needs it immensely. So that was one thing. I don't agree with the fuel reduction. If you want to do that, do it on a separate issue. You can do it here, but put it in writing in this, because there was nothing in writing is what you're going to ask the grassroots company to do. That was the first thing. The second thing is, after the polling is done, will this polling information be available to the public, such as the demographics, the areas polled, questions asked, and total numbers polled? Is this going to be transparent? Not before, but after they do the polling. Because when we went with Measure L, I got in touch with Miss Vivian at VARPA and tried to get this information, and she told me that excuse me, they were in the middle of polling and she couldn't do anything right now, but she would get back with county council and let me know. I didn't hear from her, so I generated a Freedom of Information Act, and I submitted it. And I got a copy back from Lozano saying that we're putting your information together, and it'll be $1 for the first copy, 20 cents for the second, and we will let you know. Never heard back from him. Never heard back from Vivian. I was taken off the mailing list. So I'm just curious whether this is transparent and public information or not. I know you can't answer me, but this is where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Is there any other public comment regarding this item? Seeing none, I'll call close to the public comment portion. And Joel, if you can answer on that regarding the BID and maybe county council regarding the polling data and what its availability is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To clarify, the 2% increase, so currently our transient occupancy tax is 9%, and the BID, Business Improvement District tax is 2%. For a combined what gets charged to transients less than 30 days is total 11%. I think the proposal is to increase the transient occupancy tax portion from 9% to 11%. And like you mentioned, it does not change the BID. So then what's getting charged to people who stay at hotels would be a total of 13%. So the proposal is the transient occupancy tax of 9% to go to 11%, but not taking anything away. The BID would remain the same at 2%.
Let me ask a question on that, just for clarification. The 2% that we're asking to increase, that would go to what Tom is suggesting, correct? That's what you're proposing. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. If your board wants to provide that kind of specific direction today, another alternative is, and I think what we had planned is the consultant, once they're on board, is going to come and make a presentation to your board and solicit your input so they know how to structure these, the polling and things like that. Like they may phone someone and say, how do you feel about dedicating these new funds to X? Or X, or X, you know.
And yeah, that's where I'd be more comfortable having that extra layer with public input at that point in time versus just right here. So this is just to pull and get that information of what's important and whether or not it can be, and then we will still make that decision and discussion for a later date.
Right, it certainly can come back to your board before any poll to come out. We can bring an item back to the board to discuss the actual poll. So
the poll data results.
Right.
And the methodology of how the poll was done.
And for sure, for any ballot measure that involves the board process before, to move forward. So before we even get to that, it will come back to your board, and that's the point where that discussion, okay, do we dedicate it, do we not, and for what purposes? I think this is really today is so that we can start talking to the experts.
Is there even an appetite to raise it?
Right, right.
And if there isn't, then it's a moot point. If there is, then we have that discussion as to what it's for. Is that accurate?
Right.
Okay.
This is a different group than we used for Measure L.
That is correct.
I was not really impressed with the group that we used for Measure L.
All right. If there's no further comment?
Well, I just think somebody should say that the BID is not going to be changed. Don't do it. If we change the BID, we'd have to go to the public. We can't do
Correct.
that because
That's
this
a different
thing
process, yes.
It's separate dollar, totally different.
Right.
So-
And we just
so
wanted
you
to
know that.
clarify, because I think outside, people combine the number, so we wanted to make sure that what this proposal is impacting the transient occupancy tax does not impact the BID.
Nothing to do with BID.
So hard to create a BID to try and get rid of one would be a fool's errand. All right. So if there's no further, is there I see a motion.
New public, you
Public
did.
already gone out, yeah.
All right. I make a motion, we approve this to move forward and hire this company.
You have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Second. Madam Clerk?
Call for the vote. Supervisor Wheeler?
Yes.
Supervisor Poitras?
Yes.
Supervisor Rodriguez? Supervisor Rogers?
Yes.
Supervisor Frazier?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0.
All right, and then we have one staff report from Stephanie so that she can not have to come back at 1:30.
Right.
Not that you have very many important things to do with it in regards to water.
Thank you. Stephanie Magnuson, Director of Water and Natural Resources. I just have a letter. The governor is soliciting ideas for what he's calling his water resiliency portfolio. Water resiliency is the new term for water supply reliability. So I have a short letter I'd like to read, and then hopefully Mr. Chairman can sign. It's being written to Ms. Vogel, Nancy Vogel, from the Governor's Water Portfolio Program. Dear Ms. Vogel, thank you for the ability to comment on Governor Newsom's water resiliency portfolio. Madera County proposes the following elements for inclusion and financial support within the water resiliency portfolio. And then I've separated things into two categories, Madera County being one, so that if they look for specific projects, they can pluck things off this list. And then I have a statewide section. So within Madera County, construct local groundwater recharge projects to help implement projects to satisfy the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, targeting over 20,000 acres of recharge basins and on-farm recharge projects, anticipating capture and recharge of 150,000 acre feet. Second one is remove dead trees on federal, state, and private land in the Sierra foothills and improve watershed health, which will have multiple benefits from reducing fire hazards to increasing water runoff benefits to the valley. The third is to fund studies to assess ability to connect disadvantaged communities to pre-existing systems, water systems, or otherwise mitigate water quality and water supply impacts caused by historic farming and groundwater overdraft, and to fund projects identified with the studies. The fourth one is to free up additional funds for levee and channel maintenance along the sloughs and creeks to safeguard lives and livelihoods of constituents, as well as improve conveyance ability for high flows to support recharge. The fifth one is to expand Eastman Lake on the Chowchilla River, which is one of our SIGMA projects. Then I have 4 items for the state of California. The first one is obviously to invest in large-scale water storage projects, including but not limited to Temperance Flat. The second one is to reinstate the subvention funds and carefully consider modifications for the Williamson Act so that it can function with SIGMA. The third one is to improve funding mechanisms to allow our GSAs to finance and implement programs and management actions. And the fourth one is to streamline and find ways to lower the costs for water rights permits.
Streamline,
Great.
like. Streamline.
Do we need a motion on that? Just a thumbs up?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Okay.
Twice.
Thank you.
Any word on the governor's SB1? Is he vetoing that officially?
Well, I don't know if he's vetoing it. I think it was being considered for veto.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll break for lunch. We'll be back here at 1:30.
1:30?
You want 1:45?
Yeah.
1:45 for the closed session interviews, yep.
Almost exercise.
He didn't say anything. He left all of his stuff here, so.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Welcome back, ladies. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've already read into the record the closed session item that we have for this afternoon. So with that, we will retire to the.
We want to go do the supervisory.
Oh, yeah, let's do supervisor reports and any pending legislation. Supervisor Poitras?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last week, I attended the Valley Voice trip in D.C. along with as part of the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council, and I got to attend. We had a number of water meetings on Tuesday with legislators outside of California because, we're preaching to the choir and we talk to Californians, but we talked to Lamborn and some other guys who have some key positions. Tuesday or Wednesday was mainly legislative visits, and then Thursday, department visits, and then a special Western States Commissioners / County Supervisors meeting at the White House.
Oh.
And so that was really good too, but a lot of cowboy hats in that group of commissioners. So, it was a great trip.
That's great. Supervisor Rogers?
Nothing to report.
Yeah, I got a couple of things. First of all, we went to this last weekend and we had a meeting actually Sunday morning even, so we worked on Sunday over in Mono County and about Devil's Post Pile, Reds Meadow, all the stuff that's in our county over there. And then yesterday we met with the Mono County Supervisor Stacy, Mammoth City City Council, 2 members, mayor and a member, the Forest Service, National Parks, Chief of Police, Fire Chief, altogether about 30 people on how we're going to work together to get things done over there, and mainly make people safe over there. I want to announce, I don't know if you guys seen it, CSAC's having a homeless policy workshop on November the 4th, and I think we should really be representative of that. I don't know who's going to go, but I think you going?
Yep.
You're the man.
Yeah, I'm going to be going along with Nick, and Dennis Cook will be going, he'll be attending as well.
I think it's very important we do that, so.
We're going to reach out to the city to see who can make it from the city organization because, it's got to be a collaborative effort.
We ought to. And what Max said this morning, I thought was real great about how Trump was talking about moving some of the homeless out of the big rich cities where they haven't got no place to put homeless people into the more rural areas and stuff. I think that's a great idea, to have some housing and stuff. So I like that idea, Max. Gosh, and all the meetings I've went to on homeless deal workshops since I've been elected, nobody's ever brought that up, because I think it's very important. And then I just wanted to thank all of you guys for having our on-the-road meeting in Oakhurst last week. I really appreciated everybody, staff and everything else. So it was a great meeting, I thought, and ready to move forward.
All right. Any staff reports? I have nothing to report other than the next on-the-road meeting is November 5th, but our next regular meeting will be here October 1st. And with that, we will go back to closed session.
Hey, Rob, you said Dennis Cook and who else is going?
So far, again, Nick.
There's a weird spot on the camera on my head.
No.
Mics are on. Welcome back. Well, is there any reportable action out of closed session?
Chairman, there are no reportable actions from this afternoon's closed session.
All right, with that, we're adjourned.
Very good.
Yes. Yes, hi Becky, how are you doing? Sorry.